Colors, post. Present arms.
At this time, I'd like to bring up Lieutenant Colonel retired Chaplain Kiki Peterson for our invocation.
Uncover.
Let us pray. Once again, O God, we come to you with thanksgiving. We thank you for this event. We thank you for the men and women who gave of themselves in this war, the Vietnam War. We ask, Father, that you bless their loved ones who have lost their boys, girls, young men in that conflict, in that war. We are thankful for these folks that brought in this mobile wall to give us a very impressive reminder of their sacrifice. And now, Father, help us as we go through this ceremony today, that you will further bless us and help us to carry the torch forward so that this land will always be free. Amen.
Amen. At this time, we'll bring up VFW
Recover.
Post Commander 9305, Jesse Savaria, to lead us in our pledge.
Salute.
Present arms.
Would you please follow me with the Pledge of Allegiance? Now, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Arms.
Now we'll have the national anthem, which will be sung by California Highway Patrol retired Sergeant Sean Angulo and Officer Deanne Goody.
Take a moment to just consider 58,200 names that are on that wall before we begin our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
As we wait for them, I'm going to give a little briefing that I was going to do right afterwards. But so there's three possibilities. There's two planes that are going to be flying over. One is possibly a T-6, a T-28, and a C-47. So two of those three planes, depending on availability, will be doing the flyover today. A little history about the T-28. The T-28, and this will be especially impressive for our commander that's here in the audience. The T-28 hopefully is going to be one of the ones that's flying over, was stationed here in NAFL Centro during the Vietnam War and was a training plane for the pilots that were flying in Vietnam. It was also the very first attack aircraft that was shot down and lost in South Vietnam. So I actually got to see this plane over a year ago now. It actually has El Centro painted on the tail, the original paint job from when it was stationed out here at NAF. So we are hoping that that is one of the 2 planes that will be doing the flyover today. So this is probably the hardest thing to do for today's ceremony, is coordinating the flyover. It's quite unique for any ceremony that we've ever done before, so bear with us. If you want to have a seat, go ahead and have a seat. We're not sure. They might be running a little bit late. Again, this is one of those tough things to coordinate. They did not have ground personnel to help coordinate the flyover, so they were giving us a 3:10 time. The City of El Centro, County of Imperial, the Imperial County Veterans Service Office, AT&T, SoCal Gas, Southwest Security, Spectrum Advertising, and the Imperial Valley Patriotic Planning Committee, and the men and women, all, by the way, all volunteers of the AV Mobile Wall that do a tremendous job in bringing this. And I'm going to get slapped here probably by Tom, because he just saw the TH here, but it goes without saying, we need to honor the person that really has been the point man and really has really been the drill sergeant to get this thing done, Mr. Tom Henderson. I will probably pay for that later. Next, I'd like to recognize the Gold Star families that are in attendance. Oh, we're going to go ahead and retire colors. Go ahead, Tom.
Retiring the colors. And salute. Order. Arm.
Good afternoon. The table to my left is smaller than any table that you would usually see at a reception. It is set for 1. It is round to represent everlasting concern for our missing comrades. The chair is empty, for they are not here with us this afternoon. The white tablecloth represents the purity of their response to our nation's call to arms. The black napkin stands for the emptiness left in the hearts of their families and their friends. The single rose reminds us of their loved ones. The lit candle is for the hope for a joyous reunion with those yet unaccounted for. The slice of lemon on the bread plate reminds us of their bitter fate. The salt sprinkled on the bread plate represents the tears of their families. The wine glass turned upside down reminds us that they cannot be with us today for a toast. So those of you with a bottle of water, please join me in a toast to our fallen comrades. Toast. Thank you.
We're going to ask Captain William Perkins, to come up. Before I do, I want to give you a brief rundown on Captain Perkins' background. He graduated from the Marine Maritime Academy and is commissioned as a reserve officer in the Navy ROTC program 1994. Flight school, after flight school, he went to Patrol Squadron 4, worked in Italy. He won a number of qualifications as a weapons and tactics instructor, and additionally, he was awarded the prestigious Copernicus Awards for advances in C-41 mission areas. I'm assuming that's in anti-submarine warfare, I'm guessing. At any rate, Captain Perkins next reported to John Kennedy as operations admin. During that term, he earned his qualifications as officer of the deck and of Command Duty Officer. As a senior officer of the deck and navigation training team leader during Kennedy's final combat deployment in 2004, while supporting Enduring Freedom and Iraqi Freedom, he was selected as CV-67 Ship Handler of the Year. The guys, those of us that have been in the military know they don't just hand out these things like waffles on Sunday. Okay? Subsequently, Captain Perkins reported back to VP4 for his department head tour. He served as Squadron's Operation Officer. He supported Joint Operations Task Force, ISR, and anti-submarine missions. He then went to the U.S. Strategic Command's Joint Task Force Global Network Operations Center. Again, he wasn't slacking off, dudes. He was moving forward. And he was selected as the Joint Task Force Field Grade Officer for the year of 2008. He moved on from then to Tactical Air Control Squadron 11. He supported Special Force operations in CENTCOM and earned the Meritorious Unit Citation. He served as navigator on the George Washington. He was the first aviator recognized as honor graduate from the Naval Surface Warfare Navigation School. Again, we're not talking about somebody slacking out in the back area there, okay? He's the principal author of NATO's first ever air power strategy and served as commander of the Red Air Forces. That's the simulated enemy Air Force squadrons during NATO's Joint Task Force certification. He has the personal awards of Defense Superior Service Medal, Legion of Merit, Defense Meritorious Service Medal, Meritorious Service Medal, 2 awards, and various other things. Where I come from in airborne school, we would say he's high speed, low drag. Captain Perkins, would you come?
Thank you very much. The older I get, the more drag I do carry around, so. I'm gonna move this. All good. Okay, good afternoon. Honorable guests, veterans, Gold Star families, and family members across the Imperial Valley. I'm honored to join you today to thank the 19 million veterans across our nation who've chosen to serve our country. Less than 10% of our fellow citizens raise their hand and swear an oath of service. And I thank you all for what you have done. But words cannot truly express the depth of what the debt our nation owes you all. Armistice Day officially received its name in America in 1926 through a congressional resolution. It became a national holiday 12 years later by similar congressional action. If the idealistic hope had been relieved that World War I was the war to end all wars, the 11th of November might still be called Armistice Day. But only a few years after the holiday was declared, war broke out in Europe. 16.5 million Americans took part. 407,000 of them died in service in World War I. More than 292,000 in battle. Armistice Day changed to honor all veterans at that time, and the first celebration using the term Veterans Day occurred in Birmingham, Alabama in 1947. Mr. Raymond Weeks, a World War II veteran, organized National Veterans Day to include parade and other festivities to recognize and honor veterans of all services in all wars. And our European allies to this day celebrate Armistice Day, now called Remembrance Day, on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, in recognition of the service and sacrifice of veterans in all wars. And although we celebrate all veteran service this weekend, today we pay special homage to those who served in Vietnam. We are extremely honored to have the Traveling Vietnam Wall Memorial join us in the Imperial Valley. Since its dedication, the Wall That Heals has been displayed at nearly 700 communities throughout the nation, spreading the memorial's healing legacy to millions. In addition to the nearly 1,200 men and women currently serving or working aboard NAFL Centro, and the nearly 5,600 veterans who've chosen to make the Imperial Valley their home, I thank the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund for bringing this memorial to us. On Veterans Day 1996, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund unveiled a replica of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C., designed to travel to communities throughout the United States for those who may be unable to make the trip to DC to see the original. I have made that trip, and it's impressive. The wall has two purposes: remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice, and to provide a suitable place for those who survived to honor their fallen comrades. This mobile wall provides the same, and it's a truly remarkable memorial behind us. The wall allows the souls enshrined on the memorial to exist once more among family and friends in the peace and comfort of familiar surroundings. The traveling exhibit provides thousands of veterans who've been unable to cope with the prospect of facing a wall to find the strength and courage to do so within their own communities, thus allowing the healing process to continue for many or to begin for others. Some of you in the audience may never know or have never met a veteran who served in the Vietnam War. It was a different time in our nation's history. The lack of finality of the Korean War led into further upheaval in Southeast Asia. The spread of communism was an existential threat to our nation's existence at the time, and as we were drawn into the conflict, the Selective Service was used to bolster the ranks to the tune of nearly 2.2 million draftees, which ended up being approximately 25% of the total force. Coming from all walks of life and all social and economic backgrounds, the American military force sent to Vietnam represented all of us. My father, David Perkins, served in Vietnam as a staff sergeant in the U.S. Air Force. He left college to enlist, and although he regretted never having completed his degree upon his return, he never once regretted his service or what it meant to our nation. Throughout my life and until he passed in 2016, we were close. We spoke about many things. My love of ice hockey, he couldn't skate, to his love of golf, and my nickname is Shankopotamus. To the inter-service banter, once I decided to join the Navy, the best service, instead of following him into the Air Force. He guided me into what it meant to be a man. But we never, ever spoke about Vietnam. And many veterans today live that same challenge. What they saw was extremely hard to talk about. The draft brought combat into the American family home front, but the camera and media coverage brought it into the household and right up to the dinner table. The different perspective regarding our involvement in war gained traction as the horror of combat was exposed. But it was the people who served who felt that horror most poignantly. At the dedication for the Free Fighting Men statue by sculptor Frederick Hart, the statue which stands alongside the Vietnam Memorial Wall in Washington, President Reagan remarked that the memorial reflects as a mirror reflects, so that as you find the name you're searching for, you find it in your own reflection. Those who fought in Vietnam are part of us, are part of our history, and they reflected the best in us. No number of wreaths, no amount of music, and no memorializing will ever do them justice. But it is good for us that we honor them and remember their sacrifice. The fighting men depicted in the statue adjacent to the wall, the three young American servicemen, are individual only in terms of their battle dress. All are as one, with eyes fixed upon the memorial bearing the names of their brothers in arms. On their youthful faces, faces too young to have experienced war, we see expressions of loneliness and profound love, and a fierce determination never to forget. Those who served in Vietnam answered the call of their country. Some of them died in the arms of many of you here today, asking you to look after a newly born child or care for a loved one. They died uncomplainingly. The tears staining their mud-caked faces were not for self-pity, but for the sorrow that they knew the news of their death would cause their families and friends. And as you knelt alongside their litter and held them one last time, you heard their silent message, asking you not to forget. And let me say to the Vietnam veterans gathered here today, when you returned home, you brought solace to the loved one of those who fell, but little solace was given to you. Some of your countrymen were unable to distinguish between our native distaste for war and the stainless patriotism of those who suffered its scars. But there's been a rethinking here too, and we can say to you now and say as a nation, thank you for your courage. Thank you for being patient with your countrymen. Thank you for continuing to stand alongside us. The men and women of Vietnam fought for freedom in a place where liberty was in danger. They put their lives in danger to help a people in a land far away from their own. Many sacrificed their lives in the name of duty, honor, and country. All were patriots who lift the world with their courage and fidelity. They were both our children and our heroes, and we will never forget them. We will never forget their devotion and their sacrifice. They stand before us, marching into time, into shared memory, forever. The Vietnam War occurred at a time of national strife and changing social values, which fed into treatment and perception of our service members. There is no way we who serve today can understand this, as during our entire length of service, the military has been blessed with support from the population, even through times when that same population may have embraced a different perspective toward other elements of our national leadership. A vast majority of men and women wearing uniform today joined service following the attacks on our country in September of 2001. And many of them have been killed or wounded in our nation's combat actions since that date. But it is your sacrifice that has enabled how we serve today and the life we are able to contemplate following our service. Your sacrifice so many years ago has not been forgotten. Your sacrifice has allowed those who followed behind you to experience increased benefits during and following their service. Many of you continue to serve well after your time in uniform, working with veteran support organizations to carry the flag and bear their message, that the service to our nation requires our nation to serve its people in return. The conditions of service and post-service benefits during your time have improved in so many ways across every single branch of service, and those who serve following you owe you more than they realize. Improvements in trauma care based on lessons learned in combat. These are the hardest lessons, but trauma care and medical evacuation procedures were adapted and put into use to save men and women's lives in subsequent combat operations, lives that likely would not have been saved before. Recognition of post-combat related mental health issues, not the least of which is PTSD. Terms like shell shock and war neurosis have now been recognized as invisible combat-related injuries and treated as such, and our support to those who suffer from these injuries is much improved, although there remains work to be done. Post-service education benefits have significantly improved. The post-Vietnam era education benefits bill was improved and replaced by the Montgomery GI Bill and most recently the post-9/11 GI Bill, which continue to enable all servicemen and women who serve with honor to maximize their education opportunities following service. Today, veterans can choose whether to retain their full benefit or even donate part or all of it to their spouse or children. Pension benefits have improved since 1978 Veterans and Survivors Pension Improvement Act, and surviving spouse and family members today are eligible for significantly improved benefits, including home loans, medical care, survivor benefits, and education services. And finally, we have begun to normalize relations with Vietnam, including presidential visits and even ports of call for aircraft carrier strike groups. This has not only aided stability in the region, but has enabled the identification and return of over 1,200 servicemen's remains to provide closure to those families. One of the most impressive things about American servicemen and women is that we have been an all-volunteer force since the stand-down of the draft on the 7th of December 1972, a day after I was born. We have met or exceeded recruitment and retention goals for many decades, even while experiencing deployed operations throughout the Cold War and decades of combating terrorism around the world. It is truly your sacrifice that has enabled this, and the nation cannot thank you enough for what you did, how you did it, and what you continue to do afterwards to enable and assist all veterans. I hope this traveling memorial wall offers those of you who served in Vietnam to continue to gain solace, and for those of you who served following, to understand the impact and importance of what they did before you and what their sacrifice has meant to you. For those of you who are listening who may never served, I ask only that you try to understand. Try to understand what these veterans have experienced and support them in whatever way you are able. Many years ago, I had the honor to visit the U.S. Memorial at Ypres in Belgium, the memorial for World War I. The cemetery honors the dead, but the memorial does justice to their sacrifice by not letting us forget the horror of the conditions in which those men and women fought for freedom. The combination of education for younger generations and the remembrance for those who are alive and impacted is powerful, and it achieves its aim to never forget. The wall in Washington and this wonderful memorial here on display in Veterans Memorial Park does the same. The Imperial Valley has a long record of tremendous support for all of our veterans, and I thank each of you who have a part in that for what you do. What has, throughout our history, made America exceptional are those who, decade after decade, and generation after generation, choose service to our nation in whatever way they can. On this Veterans Day weekend, I, alongside with the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund, thank you for your sacrifice.
Please be seated. I am the flag of the United States of America. My name is Old Glory. I fly atop the world's tallest buildings. I stand watch in America's halls of justice. I fly majestically over institutions of learning. I stand guard with power in the world. Look up and see me. I stand for peace, honor, truth, justice. I stand for freedom. I am confident. I am arrogant. I am proud. When I am flown with my fellow banners, my head is a little higher, my colors a little truer, and I bow to no one. I am recognized all over the world. I am worshiped. I am loved, and I am feared. I have fought in every battle of every war for more than 200 years. Gettysburg, Shiloh, Appomattox, San Juan Hill, the trenches of France, Argonne Forest, Anzio, Rome, the beaches of Normandy, Guam, Okinawa, Japan, Korea, Vietnam, and in the Persian Gulf, and a score of places long forgotten by all but those who were there. I led my soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. I followed them. I watched over them. They loved me. I was on a small hill in Iwo Jima. I was dirty, battle-worn, and tired, but my Marines and sailors cheered me, and I was proud. I have been soiled, burned, torn, and trampled on the streets of countries that I helped set free. It does not hurt, for I have been soiled, burned, torn, and trampled in the streets of my own country. And when it's done by those whom I've served in battle, it hurts, but I shall overcome, for I am strong. I have slipped the bonds of earth, and from my vantage point on the moon, I stand and watch over the uncharted frontiers of space. I have borne silent witness to all of America's finest hours. But my finest hour comes when I am torn into strips and used as bandages for my wounded comrades on the battlefield. When I'm flown at half-mast in honor of my soldiers, my airmen, my sailors, my Marines, and when I lie in the trembling arms of a grieving parent at the grave of their fallen son or daughter. I am proud. My name is Old Glory. Long may I live, dear God, long may I wait. At this point, the flag detail will present the flag to Ms. Gutierrez, Virginia Gutierrez. VFW Post 9305 selected Virginia to receive this flag from us in honor of her services, her husband's many services to our group. He was always there. Frank Gutierrez, for those of you that knew him, was a wonderful person. No. Present the flag. Take it, Virginia. Many of you may or may not know that in Washington, D.C., there are individuals that spend all day, every day, running flags up and down the Capitol dome to be distributed to politicians to give out to constituents. That is not what happens at the Vietnam Wall. At the Vietnam Wall, an individual or group sends a flag to the National Park Service, and that flag is walked the entire length past 58,281 names and returned to the sender with a certificate ascertaining that. This flag was sent over 2 years ago in the hopes of it being presented in March of 2020. Our post commander, Jesse Chavarria, will receive this flag on behalf of all members of the VFW Post 9305 and all Vietnam veterans in the Valley. It will be on display in a personally made case made by Doug Evers, many of you know from Imperial, and it will be on display in the Imperial Veterans Hall. At this time, Rick Ruane, who was Joint Commander with me on getting this going, will present the flag to Jesse. Thank you, Rick. Be seated, Jesse. And thank you for representing all of us. At this time, those members of VFW Post 9305 that have been previously designated and notified, and those other individuals within the group here who we have verified service with, would you please come stand behind a quilt? And you're going to take care of us, right? You're going to get split up. Jesse, would you give the flag to Richard? Wait. Lisa? Just 2 minutes. Come on up.
I'm Lisa Gallané with Imperial Valley Council of the Navy League. And before you there, you see a number of beautiful quilts. These quilts were all made locally to create a cloth top pieced together to form a design, a middle layer of batting to create warmth, and a back. Quilts involve a multitude of hours of sewing, yards of fabric, and hundreds of yards of threads. For those of us who quilt, quilts are often made to document a life event, to provide warmth, and are an expression of love. Quilts are also given for healing. Whether you were in the rear with gear or at the tip of the spear, being touched by war can take many forms, has accepted the burden and risk, and may be touched by war in ways that are not outwardly apparent. Today, our community of volunteer quilters has come together and offered their time, their talents, and their financial resources to present these hero quilts to these Vietnam veterans as an expression of our thankfulness for their service, sacrifice, and valor to our nation. On behalf of the Desert Quilters of Imperial Valley and the Imperial Valley Navy League, welcome home, veteran. And thank you for your service to our nation. I'd like to ask the Desert Quilters and any Navy Leaguers in the audience to come up and present these quilts.
So we're going this way.
Here, are you grabbing the first one?
I will.
To you.
Looks like there's 2 of them.
Thank you for your service. And welcome.
We don't really need this. You would like to turn around? I don't know. I don't know if you want to actually wear this or not. It's a cold, cold day.
I said one shoulder.
That's good to hear. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
Oh,
Okay. All of the line, and then you can call it off because you're going to be very late.
yeah.
You know what? I don't need to
I am Station Amos, and I am the volunteer coordinator for the Mobile Vietnam Memorial Wall. And we have been working for almost 4 years with these two fantastic people who made it possible to bring this memorial to your community. So on behalf of the AV Wall, I would like our President Michael Bertel to present a plaque of appreciation shadow box to Tom Henderson, and Linda Willis to please present the plaque of participation to the city of El Centro. That way you will each have a little bit of our wall in your office to remember the trials and tribulations of getting us here. Our organization, thank you very much. Our organization has worked side by side with your community for over 3 years to bring you this memorial. Our memorial wall was born and raised in the Antelope Valley, and that is why we call it lovingly the AV Wall. We are truly proud partners with the United States of America Vietnam War Commemoration, and we are privileged to honor Vietnam veterans and their families from Imperial County and beyond here at our AV Wall display in El Centro. A national commemoration was authorized by Congress, established under the Secretary of Defense, and launched by the President in 2012. Its primary purpose is to thank and honor Vietnam veterans and their families for their service and sacrifice. The Vietnam War Veterans Recognition Act of 2017 established March 29th in perpetuity as a national day to recognize the previously unsung patriotism of our Vietnam veterans. So National Vietnam War Veterans Day joined the 6 other annual military-centric national holidays codified in law. Our original plan was to celebrate Vietnam War Veterans Day in March 29th of 2020. But we all know why that didn't happen, so we are blessed to be here a year and a half later. Our Commander-in-Chief also issued a presidential proclamation in 2017, which stated, throughout this commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War, we will honor all who answered our nation's call to duty. We vow never again to confuse personal disapproval of war with prejudice against those who honorably wear the uniform of our armed forces. Through May 15, 1975, no distinction is being made between veterans who served in country, in theater, who were stationed elsewhere during the Vietnam War period. All were called to serve. None could self-determine where they were stationed, and all were seen in the same way by a country that could not separate the war from the warrior. Each person who served during this period earned and rightly deserves our profound thanks. So today we gather here at our memorial wall for 3 key reasons. First, to honor those who died in the Vietnam War or are still missing. Those 58,281 men and women whose names are etched on the AV Wall, especially those from Imperial County. Please join me in a moment of silence respecting their sacrifice, especially that of Robert Salas Rocha, who died in Vietnam on this day at the tender age of 19. Thank you. Secondly, we recognize those who served but are no longer among us, as well as their families, who endured untold sacrifices in supporting their service. Is there anyone here who is family to someone who served in the Vietnam War period but is no longer with us? Please raise your hand and allow us to honor you and their service. Thank you very much for the sacrifices that you made that enabled your loved ones to serve our country. Thirdly, we gather here today to humbly thank and honor the Vietnam veterans living in this community. Accordingly, I ask everyone who served on active duty at any time from 1 November 1955 to 15 May 1975, regardless of location, to please raise your hand so we can recognize your service and sacrifice and finally acknowledge you in the way you so richly deserve. Ladies and gentlemen, your Vietnam veterans. And if your family members who are with you could please raise your hands, you also are to be commended for the sacrifices you have endured for this country. Clearly, there is something very special about today in this hallowed place that inspires us to pause and reflect. Is it the memory of those who gave the ultimate sacrifice, cutting into our hearts the same way their names are etched in this memorial? Or is it the sobering fact that over 1,500 are still considered missing in action, and their families await word of their fate as we continue our diligent work to fulfill our promise to bring them home? Or that more than 350,000 American warriors carry both seen and unseen scars from that war? Perhaps it is the fact that our Vietnam veterans here today uniquely comprehend what this memorial is about. After all, they served and sacrificed, yet they received no thank yous, no cheers, no parades. Although profoundly impacted by their experiences, those who were able quietly slipped back into the lives they had left, as if they had never been gone. There is no denying that 50 years is a long time to wait. Regardless, it is vital that each and every one of you Vietnam veterans and your families understand the prominent place you now occupy in the conscience of our nation and the high measure of esteem in which you are held by friends, neighbors, and countrymen. As a lasting memento of our nation's gratitude, it is the A.V. Wall's honor to present each Vietnam veteran with the Vietnam Veteran Lapel Pin. This lapel pin, which will be presented to you shortly, is beautiful. It features an eagle's head representing courage, honor, and dedicated service. It features stripes representing our nation's flag. They found us. Everybody wave. Stars on your pin represent the allies who served, sacrificed, and fought alongside one another. All of this is encircled by a ring of blue matching the canton of our national flag and signifying vigilance, perseverance, and justice.
The real Linda. The real Linda. Yeah, nice job.
Are we gonna face this way?
Yeah, my wife, I
The
think.
hug's gotta go this way.
Linda's
Okay, I'm gonna show you the helping.
Linda knows everything. That's what
Well,
they
she sure married above her.
Okay, ready? You're getting another one.
I already got him, huh?
Well,
I don't have to get another
you just
one.
want the hug part and the scroll.
That's yours, Linda, right? See, I remember.
He's already got one. I gave it to him the other day. He just came back for hugging. He just came back for hugging. You're laughing at him. You're laughing at him, but you're about to get one.
How you doing? I'll play with
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Okay.
Okay.
Right, hug first.
Send it to his brother. Thank you.
Oh, hug first.
Thank you.
Are there any veterans in the audience who are unable to walk forward? Please raise your hand and we will hand deliver your pin
There
to
we
you.
go. We're gonna see more of you. Definitely, you will. Great pleasure. Thank you for listening.
I want to give my dad, and he's a big veteran.
You may. Send to him.
We'll send to him.
To get in line.
That's okay. I had to go back to you because I already had mine, but I had to get with my thank you. Daughter-in-law's father, who's a big veteran. Thank you.
Hug first.
You're a missionary too.
I take the hug.
On behalf of the AV Wall, I want to thank everybody for attending today. We aren't quite finished yet, but I do want to ask everybody here to please take a moment before you depart to reach out and shake the hand of one of our Vietnam veterans. Give them a great thank you, a hug, and a heartfelt welcome home.
Gracious God, we must pause, especially at this time of the year, to give thanks. To give thanks to those who designed this wall and delivered it to this valley. We give thanks for those who have diligently worked day and night to bring about this event. And we thank you for the VFW 9305 and their witness to this community, for all veterans, and for the active duty and reservists that are now serving our great country. And now, Father, grant to us your peace.
Ron Sager,
Valentin Kern.
Marcus Cherry,
Great
Frank Gutierrez, Bill Burns,
Daniel Mendoza, POW.
Ricardo Montoya.
Dick Ruane.
Sam Romero.
Rick Wilson.
Cody Rios.
Sid Swisher.
Joe Escalera.
These and many more have given of their lives for the defense of this great nation. Help us always to be grateful for our men and women serving in uniform. May we support them always. Amen.
Amen. Recover, present arms, rifle squad.
Fire guard! Guard! Rush right, rush! Hold! Recover! Hold! Hold! Hold!
Present arms.
About face! Firing position!
You're firing that way. Firing that way.
Go! Ready! And fire! Hey! Hey! Fire! Recover! Hold!
Bugler, play taps.
Present arms!
Order! Arms!
Honor guard! Dismiss!
This concludes our ceremony.